Hi guys, let's see, what are we doing today? We're doing a Honda 1969 CL160, and this bike was basically a basket case. When I got it, there was no engine on it. There was an engine in a box and a bunch of parts for another engine in a box. Basically, they said it hadn't run since 1983, I think it was. And the bike's basically complete. There's a lot of work to do on it. I got the bike home, and after getting it home, basically they told me the bike had seized up, the motor that was on it, and this is currently the motor that was on it. And it needed some work on the carburetors. When I opened up the carburetors, one of them was really corroded. So I actually bought a set of carburetors for it. I did get it to fire with the carburetors that were there. Cleaned them out, just basic cleanup on it, checked the oil, went through it. Had about 1/4 of a quart of oil in it still. It had been sitting for a long time. The engine was seized up. And basically, after checking out the engine, what they had done was pulled off the timing cover on this side of the engine. And when they tightened up the lower bolt, they actually cracked the casing, the side cover case, and a chip of that got into the stator area and basically seized up the motor. So I actually just got a wrench on the timing cover or on the bolt for the crankcase and spun it in reverse, and it freed right up. A chip fell out, and then the motor kicked over freely. So, and that motor, like I said, had been sitting since 1983. So went through and just made sure everything looked okay, did a static timing on it, went through the bike, checking stuff. Just getting it together enough to try to start it. And at this point, I was able to get it running. So, in any case, it has a fairly nice seat on it. The side covers are there, the toolbox. Pretty much all the parts are there. Some of it needs to be reworked. Had been sitting in a garage, I think, or in a shed for probably 20 years or more. Anyway, I picked it up and I went ahead and tried to get it running. So it wasn't running good on the two carburetors. It was kind of running on one cylinder and mostly running on the other. The left side seemed to be the best. But after getting it going, I was able to get it running on both cylinders really nicely after I got both carburetors. So what I think we're going to try to do, and I've only really run it 2 times, one partially and one for, I don't know, 15 or 20 minutes. We're going to go ahead and start it up again. So we'll give it some fuel. We'll give it some choke. I'll let the fuel run in it for a few seconds. Let it fill up the bowls because I drained them out. And let's see if we can get it to start here. So before I get it started, let me open up a door or two. And let's go ahead and give it a kick and see if it'll fire up. Lights work on it. Very cold. Horn works. I think I'll stop running it for now because it fills up the garage really fast. Has a pretty significant oil leak at the kickstarter. Excuse me, not the kickstarter, at the gear shifter. So I've got some rag stuffed in there. Part of the reason why I wasn't running it. So you put a battery on it. The chain wasn't on it. I got that on it. It runs through all the gears okay. So everything looks pretty good on the bike. Right now it's running pretty smoothly. It's definitely getting oil to the top end. And after getting it running, somebody saw the bike and decided they wanted to buy it from me. So they had a caveat though, that they were going to buy the bike if I would rebuild it. I'm not a big Honda guy in the respect I haven't built a lot of them. I've worked on a few of them. I had a Honda back in the day when I was younger and rode it for 3 or 4 years before I sold that. So I don't have a lot of experience with the Hondas, but I've worked on bikes and cars for a while. So basically, we'll give it a shot. We'll go through it. He wants a completely gone through engine. That engine is, you know, it's 30 years old. I don't know how long, or 30 years should I say, since it ran. I don't know how good the insides are. When I changed the oil, cleared out the filter, it was pretty caked up in the filter. So obviously the people that had it before really didn't maintain it. Had never cleaned out the filter as far as I could tell. Other than that, basically the bike is in really good shape. You know, it's not pretty. It needs to be painted. The frame is in pretty bad shape as far as lots of little nicks and dings and just worn out. It looks really good. The rim has a couple little check marks in it. On the rear, the front looks pretty good. The clear coat on the hubs has yellowed over time, so that needs to be cleaned up and maybe redone or polished up, or who knows what the owner is going to want for it. A lot of conversations to have yet. They obviously took it off-road because it was really dirty where the basically where the sprocket was. That whole area was just caked with dirt. I did a lot of cleaning to get that off. Side covers are scratched up. The pipes are not in the greatest of shape at this point as far as chroming is concerned. So, you know, it needs a lot of work, a lot of love, as a friend of mine likes to say. But it seems to run really good. You know, it's the standard 4-speed for the Honda at that time. I don't know if you could pick that up very well, but it says it'll roughly run to about almost 80 miles an hour. And from what I'm reading, that sounds about right for these bikes. 80 to 84 miles an hour is some of the numbers I've heard. Somebody said that they got one up to over 100 miles an hour and then blew the motor up at some other time, and when they rebuilt it, it would only do about 85. So I guess there's some anomalies within the builds of these motors that you could probably get some really good RPMs out of them. They're supposed to turn to about 10,500 RPMs. But overall, it's not a bad looking bike. I know they're fun to ride, great around town type of bike. So what I think I'll do is start the ball rolling on getting it rebuilt for the customer. I can see that it's seeping a little bit here. Let me turn off the fuel. Anyway, let's see here. See if we can see what's going on with that. I don't know if that's oil or fuel in here. That's oil right there. I think that oil was from the crankcase earlier on. But anyway, I don't see anything dripping down from above. I doubt it's coming out of the carburetor. Not sure where that oil actually came from. In any case, like I said, not a bad looking bike. It just needs work. So we'll see what we can do to restore this and get it in good running shape. I know that the person that's buying it is buying it so they could ride it. Something that they could just run around town. But, well, there it is. Let's see what we can do with it. All right, thanks for hanging out.